Hello everyone and welcome to the Burgess podcast, the show where we are opening up conversations about life at sea, discussing hot topics within the industry, as well as offering mental health support and promoting well-being for crew. We also have our very own in-house recruitment team, so if you or anyone you know is currently looking for a new position, please send your updated CV to recruitment@burgessyachts.com or check out our recruitment posts on Instagram @Burgess Yacht Crew.
Hi everyone! Today we're excited to bring you the third episode in our series on the Environmental Crew Guidelines. We're welcoming back Danella Hopkins, the visionary behind Curating version 1, and joining her is Gemma Harris, who played a key role in refining and shaping version 2. Together, they've elevated this initiative to new heights. In this episode, we'll explore the latest updates, what's in store for the future of the guidelines, and how you can get involved in driving this important work forward. So, Danella, welcome back. And Gemma, it's great to have you with us. Could you both briefly introduce yourselves and share your roles in the development of the Environmental Crew Guidelines? So, Danella.
Hi, well, I'm a former yacht crew of 12 years, with the last vessel I was on being Black Pearl, which is a heavily eco-focused yacht. And for the last 5 years, I have been working as a shoreside consultant and was the original curator and writer of the Environmental Crew Guidelines version 1.
Great, and Gemma?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on the podcast. So I worked as crew for 10 years on slightly smaller vessels around like 40 metre mark. But as I was on board for that length of time, I obviously saw, like many other crew, like how we contribute a lot to negative impacts to our environment around us. So because of that, I started to make lots of field changes on board. And I then created my own platform called Sustainable Yachting, which the aim of that was to basically create some simple resources for crew to go to also make environmental changes and positive changes on board. And that's when Danella then reached out to me and Water Revolution Foundation, and that's how I then got on board with the second version.
Okay, great. And on that, is that a website that you can share with us so that we can have a look at that at some point?
Yeah, sure. So I actually started the platform, it was pre-COVID, and I created these very simple resources which have now been completely reimagined within the guidelines. But the Sustainable Yachting website and social channels is now kind of developed into the dedicated resource hub for the guidelines themselves. So we're going to use it for like expanding sections and adding extra information, and also kind of like share stories and case studies of crew that are making the changes on board as well. So yeah, we aim to have it as kind of like a community of crew that are all trying to make a better difference.
That's really exciting. And what's the web address of that, just so that people can go and have a look if they're any interest?
Yeah, sure. So it's sustainableyachting.com, and we also have the Instagram account, which is Sustainable Yachting as well. Water Revolution also share the posts and tag that platform within it as well when talking about the guidelines. So if people follow both, then they'll find it.
I'll have a head over there myself and have a look. It's something that I'm not currently following, so it'll be very interesting. Thank you for that. So, Danella, since the release of the first version of the Environmental Crew Guidelines, what has the feedback been from crew that you've spoken to?
Well, overall, the feedback has been really positive, that finally there is a tool that they can reference, and one that's specifically related to the operational side of things on board. There was a lot of info to absorb though, so we knew that there was the need to have shorter, more digestible pieces of information. So this is where we have acknowledged that, and within version 2 we have developed easier one-page call to action posters with infographics, which has been really well received. Other feedback has been that there's the need to have more resources available worldwide. There's still a lot of frustration amongst crew about, waste management and port facilities and things like that. So we know there's a lot of work to do there. And also too, I think sharing more ideas around specific suppliers and products that people can be using as well.
Yeah, that's great. Have you come across any examples of exciting or creative initiatives or ideas along the way on board yachts?
Yeah, so we actually held our first crew event, which was held at the Waterfront Marina in Genoa, and that was in collaboration with Amico Shipyard. And there we chatted to the crew about the guidelines and about things they were doing on board. Actually, it was interesting because one of the sections within the guidelines is called Eco Medical, and it's all about how to better utilise a medical kit in terms of the waste and things like that. And one of the deckhands at the event says, oh, that's a great idea. Like, they actually use expired syringes to then use for measuring paint and things like that. And that's actually something we've already put in the guidelines. But he was like, yeah, we do that. Like, I didn't realize that that was one of the ways that we were doing better type thing. So there's a lot of small things like that crew may already be doing, but isn't flagged as like a more environmentally thing to do.
And I think, that's the key thing, is the small changes. This is one of the things that we've been trying to get across to our fleet when we're talking to crew on board, is people can feel quite overwhelmed by this mountain that they've got to climb when they read the guidelines. But actually, you've got to start at the bottom and make the small changes like that and do what you can on board. And if everybody's doing something within their department, then you're moving in the right direction. And the point is to look at these things and to try and improve and to try and add something as you go along to all work in the same direction. So I think what you say about the deckhand flagging that and not realizing that he's already doing something is really key.
I think as well, because one of the ways how we've kind of structured the guidelines is first to nominate an environmental ambassador, and that role is kind of someone that takes on, and perhaps in a larger yacht it would be one per department, so that they kind of spread the workload. And that's someone that will take on kind of the responsibility and the accountability, but then to also share with everybody else. It's a team effort, obviously, but having that person that's nominated, I found from talking to crew, especially at the event, is something that's quite positive on board. And have someone that takes that 10 minutes at the end of the weekly crew meeting to talk about sustainability and changes on board is quite important as well.
And Gemma, have you found that those particular crew members have been generally junior crew members, or has it been a real mix?
I think, it's been a mix. I think a lot, like the resounding kind of thoughts is that if a captain isn't on board with it, excuse the pun, so like if he's not, or her isn't on board with creating like this environmental mindset, then it doesn't filter down. So even if a junior crew member is passionate about something, getting that change to happen on board isn't necessarily that easy. So I think we're really trying to look at the captains and the heads of departments to kind of, changing the mindset on board.
I fully agree with that. I think that it's important that the people who are in charge of the departments, HODs, captains particularly, give the enthusiastic crew, they may be the enthusiastic crew member, which is great, but give the environmental ambassador, representative, whatever you end up calling it, on board, the space and the time to voice their ideas and their opinions and to be heard and to try and make the changes on board. I know for some it might be a different cost. It might be something that's not necessarily but slightly more expensive or different product to what they usually buy. So I think it's important that these ideas are heard and on a regular basis, like you say. So ideally in a monthly safety meeting or a crew meeting would be a good time to put them forward. And were there any challenges or unexpected outcomes from the initial implementation of the guidelines, Danella?
I think there's still a lot of work to do in regards to spreading the word. I think there's still a lot of people that haven't heard of Water Revolution Foundation or the Environmental Crew Guidelines yet. So it just goes to show that there's still a lot of work to do, I think, on our part, but also, our partners, and just ensuring we continue to share that this is available, to have that follow-up. I think that, to have these groups, if we can get the ambassadors on board talking, connecting with each other, I think that's something that would be, really good to work towards. Because I think sharing the information with each other is going to be crucial. It's what people need. We know that it's a big project. There's a lot of work to do there, and it's not always easy to find solutions. So if we can work on building that community and sharing the information, then that will make it easier for each other, I think, to know where to go to with the resources. So we're still just, I think, needing to get the awareness out there and build the profile and get more people talking about it.
And one of the challenges is to get the feedback from the crew. So we're kind of wanting to reach out to more and more and see exactly how we can make it improved, because the whole thing, it's for them, so it needs to work for them. So feedback is what we would want.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of spreading the word, one thing that we've done at Burgess is obviously we've released a one-pager explaining what the environmental crew guidelines are, and also encouraging all staff who visit yachts, whether it be a yacht manager or yacht management assistant, to talk about it, to highlight it. We've sent people with 5 questions to find out what they're doing on board, have they heard of it, what they are thinking about doing, what they're open to, what's already in place, and just to try and get the conversation going, basically. So I think, yes, spreading the word is the key and getting people just to understand it and know about it. And then obviously as the information comes in, we're gradually feeding back to you and the WRF. Gemma, as someone deeply involved in creating version 2, what was your approach to refining the guidelines?
Yeah, so I think obviously, as Daniela said, there was a lot of information. It was quite overwhelming, I think, for a lot of crew. And the main barrier that we're trying to get over is crew don't have enough time. Like, there's not enough time in the day. They're very busy. So the main approach for me was to condense the information. And that was done per section, and also restructured it slightly to make it flow a bit better. So again, time poor crew can then follow it and implement things easier. But yeah, I think we just wanted to make it easier to follow. And as we mentioned already, to create these visual aids that were after each prominent section. So then how you can download them now is you can actually just download the separate infographics files. So that's something that I spoke to crew about a couple of weeks ago. So if they want to take the first step, perhaps that's the easiest thing to do, is to download the infographics, distribute them between the relevant departments, and then start going from there. Like, it's kind of that first step, I guess, to make it as easy as possible. So there's obviously so much information, and more information we can include, but I think just as we've restructured and condensed it now is hopefully better.
Great, I'm sure it is. And were the specific areas of focus that emerged as particularly important in the revision process?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the core information was already there. So we focused the visual aids on each department. Obviously, as we've said, it's like a team effort. We also added a few more informative sections in from changes since version 1, such as more information on the anchoring procedures and restrictions. And also we included a section for crew to become more aware of the impact on marine life, and that the important marine mammal area program, which Water Evolution spearheads. So that's something that we included as a section this time around, because I don't think a lot of crew think of what, especially maybe deck crew who are anchoring, etc., or taking guests to small isolated coves with marine life, etc. Like, there's a lot of impact that we obviously have, but not many people understand. So that's something we outlined in that section as well.
Okay, that's great. And are there any plans for future updates or expansions to the guidelines? I know previously, Danella, you've talked about the shipyard new build concept stage, which is a whole other topic. But is there anything planned in that sort of direction at the moment, or?
I think it's certainly still on the cards, but we felt like for this next version, we really needed to stay focused on refining it for what it was and making it easier to use. And as the new build refit sector is a lot, more vast, I think that's going to just require a little bit more planning, decide how we want to tackle that one.
Just in terms of like the immediate future, what we're really trying to do is to build up the awareness and the collaboration between Seastainable and Water Evolution as well. So we're going to really aim to increase those resources on there, and also make bite-sized information on there as well. So people who haven't necessarily downloaded the guidelines to start with can hopefully see these snippets of information and maybe become more interested, and then start to download them, and et cetera, et cetera. So we're hoping for that snowball effect. As I mentioned on the Seastainable blog coming in the future, there'll be case studies and kind of highlighting what crew are already doing. And also, as Danella mentioned, like the ways and means they can do that in terms of initiatives, products, organisations, etc.
Okay, yes, because my next question was, how can crew members or listeners get involved in shaping the next steps of this initiative? So I guess if you're posting about specific events or initiatives, they can sign up there.
Yeah, exactly. And if any crew are interested in getting involved or they have feedback, then we have the ecocrew@waterevolutionfoundation.org email address, which is the one dedicated to feedback. It is also on the guidelines. So yeah, just direct all the feedback there. We were also thinking recently, like if there are any crew members that are particularly passionate and want to get involved in the project, then that's maybe something we could look to onboarding those as well in the future.
And you mentioned talking at the Genoa Yacht Show, you held an event. Are there any upcoming events like that you'll be holding that crew could attend or get involved with?
So it was at Genoa Waterfront Marina. It was a crew event that Amico hold. So we were just there spreading awareness about the guidelines. But at the moment, there isn't anything confirmed, but there's a few ideas with other shipyards to hopefully create these crew events, because I think our industry is still very people facing. Like it's a lot easier to have those conversations face to face, and actually to hear crew stories and to hear what they need is quite important, and easier for them to jump off the yacht for 5 minutes and go to a talk at the shipyard rather than sending emails and getting on Zoom calls, etc. So we're hoping that this face-to-face crew event thing will develop.
Yeah, I think that's key. If there's any shipyards out there listening, contact the ladies to arrange an event. I think getting the contact with crew is key, really, and talking to them on a basis where you can relax and have a social drink over discussion of the guidelines is a great idea. Are there any other points you'd like to add?
I think that care and maintenance of the teak, which is obviously an extremely scarce resource, and as some of you may have seen in the news lately, there has been some situations that have arose with yards using teak that they shouldn't be using. So I think that the more understanding that the crew have on how to ensure longevity of the teak that's on board, then that's obviously really important.
Absolutely. And I know some of the chemicals to brighten the teak can be very harmful to the environment, so it's a way of making the teak look good whilst considering the environmental impact of that.
I think that was another feedback as well from the event, is a lot of crew now are open to using environmentally friendly alternatives because they know that the quality is now there. Whereas maybe 6-7 years ago, the quality of the products weren't as good in relation to the toxic products that were good as in the cleanliness, but not good for the environment. I think now that there's way more options out there, and crew are beginning to notice that.
Yeah, I do think, having been on board lots of vessels, I have found that the interior department is at the forefront of this, partly because of the wide range of products that are available at an affordable price. I think the other departments are catching up because it's been a little more difficult maybe to tweak them to be more acceptable to crew using them, whether that's price-wise or definitely in terms of how effective they are.
I think it's also the mindset as well. And obviously these chemicals make people's lives easier, I think initially. However, as say these days, they are being developed a lot further. You don't have to be using these super strong toxic chemicals. There are other solutions that are working. So I think there's just starting to try them out, change the mindset and give some of the really good brands that are out there now a chance.
And I guess there's more and more brands appearing over time as this gets traction in the industry.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, ladies, for coming and joining us on the podcast. It's been really informative and interesting to talk to you as always, and we look forward to talking to you again in the future.
Thank you so much, Lorraine.
Thank you.